Hello everyone, I'm Lisa Anderson. I am the publisher of Locala magazine, and on January 28th, 2023, my parent company, Lisa Anderson Media, in conjunction with the Hispanic Business Council, went and hosted the Shameless Summit Leading with Light live on stage. The following video that you are about to watch is a recording of that summit. I hope you enjoy these inspiring stories from the 14 women who shared them.
Well, guys, welcome to the summit. Thank you so much. If you don't know who I am Lisa Anderson, and I am the publisher of the book Shameless. 15 women share their journey of self-awareness, self-love, and leading with light.
Yes.
Okay, so I did start recruiting for this book back in 2021. And after a lot of hard work and determination, we finally got it published in July of 2022. When I first started this project, I had a goal of recruiting 40 women to share their stories. Crazy. As a new book publisher, I did quickly realize that it was not going to be as easy as I thought. And it was a challenging and sometimes very heartbreaking process. But in the end, I am ultimately very proud of the 15 women who chose to take part in not only the book, but to come and present today on this stage. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge that sharing one's personal journey, especially the difficult parts, is not easy. It takes a lot of courage and vulnerability, as I'm sure you'll hear from some of our speakers today. Their chapters are not sugar-coated. They are raw and real. And I believe that is what makes them so powerful. They are a testament to the strength and resilience of the human spirit. I hope that you will be as moved and inspired by what you hear today, and that it will help you on your own journey of self-awareness, self-love, and leading with light. I do want to take a moment to thank our sponsors, especially Noma Gallery. Without their support, this would not be possible. I do also want to mention that the authors and myself chose to give up all our royalties from this book and donate them to PACE, and including all the proceeds from this event go to PACE as well. We believe in the education and mentorship for the young girls, and we wanted to give back in a meaningful way. So now let's go ahead and start on this journey of self-awareness, self-love, and leading with light. And our very first speaker, I'm thrilled to introduce her, Laura Flores. She is a certified transformational life coach who has dedicated her career to helping others find their way to wellness and self-respect. In her chapter titled A Body Breaking into Self-Love, Laura shares her story about overcoming bulimia, all the way from Texas. Please help me welcoming Laura to the stage.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Lisa. And more importantly, thank you to everyone who has attended this morning. My story is about a car accident mixed in with bulimia. I know that's a weird combo. I was a very young little girl in Texas with a huge family that had a lot of issues. But so I wanted to be the perfect child. I wanted my family to know that there wasn't going to be any problems with me. Little did I know that the journey I would take was going to be more than anything but problems. My eating disorder began when I was 13 years old. It took my life, it took my time, and it took my health. As I grew older, through 4 pregnancies, was still bulimic. It took mental stress, it took a lot of pain and suffering for me to finally realize that this was not the route I wanted to take. But it wasn't until 2018, when I was in a car accident, that I realized that my life needed to change. In this accident, a drunk driver hit my son and I. My son is present here today. We are very fortunate to be here. That accident was my turning point. That is when I decided that I needed to change my life. My illness had taken over. My demons, so to speak, had to be dealt with. So at that point, I started studying. I was told by doctors that I would never run a race, I would never jog, I would never work out again. When I finally sat down and studied to be a life and health coach, ironically, I started realizing that everything that was happening to me throughout those years was more mental than anything. It was taking me physically down, but mentally it was wearing me. I could not function. And though on the outside I looked amazing, on the inside I was deteriorating. So with that accident and that learning through self-examination, my self-love that I did not have started becoming my focal point. I started realizing, ladies, that my love for myself was not there. So through my studies of being a life and health coach, I started realizing little by little through each chapter that I needed to heal. And that part of healing came from childhood trauma, came from separation, came from a lot of things that I did to myself. Little did I know that the bulimia was making it worse. So in 2018, my life transformed. I became a certified life and health coach. I do motivational speaking. I do some modeling. And more than anything, I realize now how important our body and our self-image is, how it can deteriorate or how it can lift us up. And it is a body breaking. My body was breaking, and so was my mind. My relationships were crashing. So that car accident turned my life around. I have since then judged pageants. I have been able to help clients. I have done commercials. I have realized that what my tragedy was became a triumph. My mantra is live life loud. We have one life, ladies. We need to realize it and utilize it. We are so blessed to be here today together because all of us have a story. All of us are amazing. And no matter what your story is, you can impact others. I urge each and every one of you not to just work out on the outside, but to look inside. Figure out what it is that's making you who you are. Find that little girl in you and bring her back. And remember, no matter what it is that you are or where you came from, you are amazing. And live life loud.
Okay. Our next speaker is Jodi Anderson. She is a senior editor at the Locala magazine, and she also edited Shameless. And yes, we are related. In her chapter titled The Girl with True Grit, Jodi discusses the difficulties she faced in personal and professional life as a result of her mental illness and the process of seeking treatment and learning to manage her disorder. Please give my sister, Jodi, a warm welcome to the stage.
So does anyone remember video rental stores? Yes, I'm going to date myself with this anecdote. When I was in college, I went down the street to rent a video for my roommates and myself, but I couldn't decide on a movie, and I just walked around the store and finally got back in my car and drove to the next city 45 minutes away. I thought I would go to the movie theater there, but I couldn't follow the directions I was given. So I returned back to my city and went to a movie theater there. Hours after I was expected back home, I showed up, and my roommate Jen, who was a psychology major, punched me in the chest and said, "Never do that again." A couple of years later, I got a diagnosis of bipolar II disorder, and I was ecstatic that I now had a medical explanation for why I did stupid crap like that, also known as mania. A few years later, let's say 15-ish, I was still struggling with staying on task, with staying in jobs, and I grabbed onto the idea that I had a second diagnosis. A friend of mine had just been diagnosed with ADHD, and they thought I might have it too. So I read all the articles and I watched all the videos on YouTube, and I thought, hey, they're right, it sounds like me. Well, this book had to go to print before I got my final diagnosis, but I was 99% sure that I had it. So I put it in the essay. 6 hours of testing, test after test. only for my neuropsychologist to disagree. He said, you don't have ADHD. Bipolar overlays the same part of your brain. So I don't have ADHD, but I have all the symptoms. Great. But he went on. He said, you tested in the 88th percentile of intelligence. I said, wow, at least I'm getting something out of this. And then he says, you are smart enough to know you should be able to do something, and you get frustrated when you can't. Am I the only burnt out gifted kid here? And you have an inner monologue. Oh my God, it never stops. And finally, you have clinical levels of anxiety, also known as generalized anxiety disorder. So I had my second diagnosis, not the one I expected, but I went on medication and everything was perfect, right? No. But it has helped me a lot, and I'm able to set tasks and complete them, where before my anxiety was like my own personal jungle that I had to chop through just to get done a task. Well, not everyone is as lucky as I am. With the perfect scenario would be medication and using healthy living like exercising, eating well, sleeping well. We can get to the same starting point as other people who don't have mental illness. And it feels like it took me an extra 20 years just to get here. I have a lot of changes coming up. I'm going to be moving across country, back to Wisconsin, where I came from 13 years ago. And I have to find a job. I'm still moonlighting as a copy editor at Locala. And I'm putting myself through grad school. I'm getting an MFA in writing. Thank you. So all of these changes are anxiety-inducing, of course, and I'm sure they would be for just about anyone. But I am very proud of myself because I have been managing my mental health, and it's in balance because I'm taking care of myself in a way that I didn't know how to do for a very long time. So from this place of privilege, really, I want to continue talking about mental health as a chronic illness that can be managed. I want to let people know that the normal people around them may struggle with mental illness and have struggles to juggle just to get through the day. So the customer service agent, the teacher, the grad student might be struggling right next to you. As this says, we all struggle with shame, and I struggle with shame with the mental illness that I had. And sometimes we are referred to as broken, but I am no more broken than someone who has diabetes or hypothyroidism. That's right? So let's do away with shame by talking about it. Because I experienced that because we did not talk about it. So let's begin at home with our friends and family and encourage them to take the necessary steps to get a diagnosis if that's needed and to seek the support to live a normal life. Because I can testify that without friends like Jen, without my sister Lisa, I wouldn't be here today. So thank you.
So our next speaker is Khadijih Mitchell-Polka, and she will be joining us via Zoom. She is a meditation guide and intuitive mentor. And I lost my place, guys. Her mission is to guide individuals to reconnect their mind, body, and spirit. In her chapter titled Journey into the Soul, Khadijih talks about growing up in a chaotic household and finding strength for her spirituality. She also speaks about her journey of healing from anorexia and learning to love herself. Please welcome Khadijih all the way from Colorado.
Hello, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here with all of you, coming in from Colorado, here with one of my best friends, Lily. You can't see her quite well, but it's my little puppy behind me. Brings me a bunch of comfort. And so In my story, I share a little bit about my journey over the past, 20 years, in so many, even longer in such a sense. So I came into this world just as we all do, in pure spirit, unadulterated and totally free in so many ways as a young child. I was imaginative and creative, and often felt things that I couldn't see. I'd sense spirits from beyond the veil. I could feel energies around me that I didn't understand. And when I would meet people, I would always get a sense for who they were, and I didn't fully get it. And this was really challenging for me growing up, because I lived in a world that simultaneously was telling me these things aren't possible, or, oh, it's just because you're creative or because you're imaginative. And so as my feelings and what I was experiencing were being discounted and told they were unreal and not true, I was also moving through a life experience where I was raised as a Baha'i. So this was a religion and a faith that was not really heard of in my elementary school. And I was, I grew up in a trailer park, and, my family was really poor, and we had all these things going on at our house that kind of seemed to place us in a different category. I was also one of the very few white people within my community. I grew up with a lot of Hispanic individuals, and it was a wonderful, diverse community in that sense. But I was often pointed out for being flaca, for being the güerita, for not being the same as everyone else. And so I felt like an outcast. I felt like I didn't belong. And going through all of this turmoil at home with my father, he suffered from bipolar disorder and had, he just hadn't met his own demons within himself, and he didn't really know how to handle them, because some days it seemed like he was really trying to be the best father he could, and other days he was just flying off the handle and taking everything out on us. And from these experiences combined together in my own childhood trauma, and one fateful comment from my father one day as I was getting ready for dance, he told me that I was beginning to look a little pudgy around the middle. Completely changed the trajectory of my life for the next, 10 years, from the age of 12 till 20. And I slowly, from that moment, without even really realizing it, stopped eating. I kind of just decided that I wanted to be like all these other beautiful, thin ballerinas and women that were so small that they almost disappeared. They were invisible. You couldn't see them. So who would worry about them? Who would think about them? And this experience was internalized inside of me. And I went through because of my anorexia, I went down a path where I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I needed out of life. I didn't know how to heal. I didn't want to be here. I really didn't want to be in the world, because I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere other than when I was on stage and I was spreading my wings and dancing. That was where I felt truly at home. And this experience of my eating disorder truly was the entryway into my journey with self-love, with tuning into my own soul, and really attuning to who I am. It took many years to go on my healing journey, and I talk about this in my chapter. And one of the things that really allowed me to heal my own eating disorder was coming back to that moment that I would feel on stage of pure presence, pure awareness, fully alive in all that I was as I was moving and dancing. And I realized all of this was because of my presence, was through my ability to be self-aware, to be self-reflective, to be in the moment. And something shifted to where I stopped looking at the world as a reason for me to continue feeling terrible. I stopped blaming everyone else for the problems that I was experiencing. And I began really tuning into my heart. Now, I talk about this whole journey in my chapter, but ultimately, what truly helped me begin to dive even deeper within and heal those broken parts of myself that I didn't even know existed, that I didn't know came from when I was 4 years old and told that, no, there's no way I saw a spirit, was through my own inner introspection and through meditation. This was my true path of healing. And it still is. I realized from the path that I have walked that healing is nonlinear. And it will always be this constant ebb and flow of allowing, receiving, and fully investigating the parts of us that come forward. And I truly believe that we're all capable of doing this introspection and self-excavation so that we can be the brilliant white lights that we came to be and continue to lead with light. And so I thank you so much for listening to me today. I thank you all for being here with so much love.
Okay, and we have another Zoom presentation because unfortunately Manal Fakhoury is out of town this week. But if you're ready for another inspiring story, she is a leader of our community. For the past 35 years, she has been making a positive impact in Locala through her dedication, philanthropy, and leadership. She is the founder of All in Women and the curator of TEDx Locala. In her chapter, My All America City and Me, Dr. Fakhoury shares the prejudice and bigotry she faced during her mayoral campaign and how she overcame the challenges she faced. Let's go ahead and give her a big round of applause while I pull her up on Zoom.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I wish I was physically in the room with you. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. So proud of Lisa and all that she's doing and how she brought this platform for all of us. And hearing Laura speak, the commonality of just learning about her struggle and how she really was able to take that accident and turn, what Tony Robbins teaches, make your worst day your best day, and how it can actually be transformative. And with Jodi and her support through her family, and I love the relationship she has with Lisa, and then Khadijih, who is someone I have met previously on Zoom, very beautiful, and we have the anorexia story in common. So for me, and the part that I'll share is, many of you probably realize or know that I was not born in America. My family immigrated back in 1969. And we lived in LA. I will say we landed in the city of Angels. So if you can only imagine a family with 5 young children coming halfway around the world, didn't speak the language, didn't really, the level of uncertainty. We were sponsored by my uncle, and very quickly as a family, and God bless my parents, who I've lost both of them, they taught us love at a very, very young age. Our faith was strong. We were, English as second language students, but also they modeled at a very young age service, hard work, philanthropy, generosity. They became leaders in the community. And my father and mother really just worked so hard to provide for us. And the reason we immigrated is we wanted a better life. My background is I'm Palestinian, which, believe it or not, I don't even know why I'm saying it this way, because I think it's still current. There was a time you couldn't even say you're Palestinian. I witnessed one day, and it's going to make me sad, where my dad said we're Lebanese. So identity is so important to each of us. And growing up, I think the advice that my father gave me, so interestingly, that I talked about recently in a speech, is don't ever talk about sex, religion, or politics in public. Imagine being 12 years old and getting that type of, wild warning. But I think what my father was telling me at that age is, just offering me a layer of protection. So what I noticed about myself, and I'm one of 5 children, is I was very driven. And I wanted to be part of everything, and I would join things. I wanted to learn. That was my happy place, is, being in clubs and joining. And what I loved about that is I was always growing, and maybe in a little bit different than some of my siblings that didn't have that same drive to be in so many things. But fast forward, I meet the love of my life, Riyadh, who many of you know, Dr. Riyadh, who has the medical practice in the city. And I come to Ocala in 1987. So if we do the math, it's a good 35 years ago is when we got married. And I recall coming to Ocala with so much love and energy and excitement, and got involved early on. Junior League was my first organization to get involved with, continued on to, join many organizations. And it really just became part of my DNA. And I think it was, again, modeled through my parents, being community leaders and philanthropists and just, having a pulse. But we also, we grew up, myself, before the 24-hour news cycle, before social media. So we knew about the struggles and the pain back home. And it was something that we cared about. Now, in 2021, actually, let me back up. In 2014, I actually was approached, and I'm going to actually correct myself one more time, 2013, by two Jewish attorneys out of the city of Gainesville, our neighboring city, who came to meet with me in my home and said, Manal, we have a sister city relationship with a Palestinian city. And you're right here, you're Palestinian, you need to do the same thing in Ocala. And I'm thinking, yeah, what a great idea. This is like, this should be a breeze. And to my surprise, sadly, I think that was the beginning of really, recognizing that people cared about me to a certain degree when I was doing good work and fundraising and helping. But when I stepped into City Hall to create a sister city relationship with a powerful and amazing city, the city of Ramallah, which is considered international and really, truly, if you look at size, deserves more a Jacksonville, a Tampa, a Miami, not little Ocala. And initially, the comment that I received when I went one-on-one to meet with the mayor was, sure, let's do this. Then I come back nearly a year later, only to be slandered, called a terrorist, being concerned about my connection, Manal's connection with the terrorists in Palestine. And I had a group of children there. I had a group of businesswomen there at City Hall because I didn't want to make it about me. I thought we were going to do something beautiful together for the city. So I share that with you as background because in 2021, just about a little more than a year ago, and for many years I had been asked, Manal, when are you going to run for office? And really, I just wanted to be part of the change. I didn't have to become an elected official. So I did file my paperwork to run for mayor and talk about, understanding really the point of view of a city. And I learned so much. The best way that I can describe the July 21st to September 21st, short period of time, is as if I had gone out of space and came back, because during the campaign, I had totally focused on that campaign. And I learned so much. I had consulted with several people in the city that said, Manal, we believe you can win. You have a track record, you have name recognition, you've done the work. And we've had the same individual for so many years that, Ocala has an appetite. We've never had a woman. We've never had a Hispanic male or an African-American male. And, it's time for change. And during my campaign, I think, I really saw the best and the worst of Ocala. I was reminded beautifully at times of things that I was a part of that I didn't even remember being a part of, including the American Red Cross, the Women's Pilot Club. If you guys know that Ocala had a Women's Pilot Club, I forgot about the Women's Pilot Club. Or someone, when I was doing the canvassing and door knocking, and said, you helped my son win a speech contest, which is some of the work that I do with Toastmasters. So I had a lot of beautiful surprises. And 35 years is, some people probably in the room aren't even 35 years old. That's a lot of years to be in one community and to serve. And it was always my pleasure to serve. That is who I am. And that's what I enjoy doing. But at the same time, when I say I saw also the worst of Ocala, is, I was with my campaign manager, had a gentleman come out in his, one of those wheelchairs and chase us down and just with profanities. And all because I had the desire to be part of the change and to run for political office. The thing that came up over and over again is, Manal, you have so much courage. And I thought, gosh, you shouldn't have to have that much courage to run for political office if we're really serious about what we say about our American values. In any case, I believe, just like Laura with her car accident, turning it into something transformative, and some of the other stories with Jodi and all that she went through, and even with Khadijih, I believe that, yes, life happens for us, not to us. And there were so many blessings, and maybe some of it has not expressed itself. Some of the comments that I received from some of the students in terms of you've already changing Ocala just by putting yourself in that position. And for myself, I understand how important identity is. And rejection now, you can look at it. And my daughter, the night of the election, said to me, Mom, I think God is protecting you. And again, I didn't have to win. I wanted to run an aspirational campaign, which is exactly where we stayed. And I believe some great things will come out of that campaign. And I'm just grateful to have an opportunity to share my story and to remind all of us that no one chooses their place of birth. Think about that. I mean, think to yourself, if you could raise your hand, if you say to me, hey, Manal, I chose to be born in America. No. So why? Why do we put so much value and disdain? There's a human community, and we need to remember that. And that is really the purpose of even All in Women International, is to remind all of us that we want to create and not destroy, and we want to respect each other and care about each other, and women can make a difference. So that is truly my belief. So Lisa, and to all of the ladies that are here, again, I wish I was with you. I hope I didn't take up too much time, but I thank you for this platform. And I think once you finally publicly express some of your frustrations and your real story, your vulnerability, which is what people want, I think it helps us ourselves to really clear and clarify and feel confident in expressing who we are. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Okay, our next speaker, Sydney Rafferty, is an advocate for healthcare reform and a leader in the fight for a better future. Her journey of self-awareness and self-love has been filled with challenges, including being denied medical care after she had been raped. Her chapter is titled A Tale of Three Hospitals. Please welcome to the stage, Sydney Rafferty.
Thank you, everybody. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold. On March 13th, 2020, I was raped. It was not fun. But that's not really what my story's about. So just a few months before I was raped, I had completed training with the Alachua County Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center. I was working that hotline. So I knew what to do when you got raped. I knew what you should do, what your legal options were, what your medical options were. That's what I did on the hotline, is I guided women. The idea is when you get raped, you call the hotline, what do I do? Here's what you should do, here's what you can do. And we'll be there to help you. So when I got raped, I didn't really, I knew what to do, but I also felt kind of alone, because who was I gonna call? Me? I don't know. So I went to the hospital, though. That's what we tell people to do. Go to the hospital, tell them you need a sexual assault exam. A rape kit is more commonly known. The three main components of a rape kit is to check to see if the victim is okay, to treat them for STIs and pregnancy, and also to collect evidence, so that if you want to report, you can, and you have DNA evidence. So that's the purpose of a rape kit. I went straight to the hospital. The assault happened in Crystal River. I was living and volunteering in Alachua County at the time in Gainesville. So I drove straight to the hospital in Inverness with my best friend. And I went in and I said, hi, can I have a sexual assault exam, please? And they were like, and they brought me back into a room, and they're like, do you want to report? And I said, not yet. Because I didn't know. I didn't know if I wanted to report the crime. I kind of felt like maybe I was just making a big deal out of nothing. I wasn't sure if I had been raped. Had I been raped? I wasn't sure. And that's normal. It's so super normal to feel like that, to feel like maybe you're making a big deal out of nothing. Lots of people feel like that, and that's okay. And it was really important for me to lean on my best friend during that time to remind me that no, I wasn't making a big deal out of nothing. Something bad happened to me, and I deserved help. But I didn't get help for quite a while. So that first hospital, I went back, I asked for a sexual assault exam, they took me back. I told them I didn't want to report. A police officer came in anyway. It was great. He was not a fun guy to talk to. He started giving me all this, really great advice, like listen to your sober friends next time, just exercise self-control and you won't get yourself into this situation, all the normal stuff that they tell you to expect, but I never really thought it would happen to me, He even told me, so after a while, I'd been sitting in that hospital room, I was like, why haven't I gotten an exam? And he was like, oh, they don't actually give those here. Why did they take me back into the hospital if they weren't gonna give me an exam? I don't know. So I asked him, I was like, what do you mean? He said, so remember this is Citrus County, he goes, well, it's mostly old people here, and old people don't really get raped. And if they do, they're mostly just like, woohoo, I got some. I swear to God, this police officer said that to me in the Inverness hospital. So, nurse came back and I was like, nurse, am I gonna get a sexual assault exam? She said no. I was like, okay, great, thank you. So I left. And they said I would have to go to Gainesville. Gainesville is about an hour or 15-minute drive from there, which like, I was lucky enough, I was able to do that. But not everybody can. Some people don't have a car. Some people don't have gas money. Some people don't have time. Whatever it is. So I came to Ocala next. I was like, Gainesville's so far. Ocala's on the way, I'll stop. I went to the sexual assault center in Ocala, and I asked them if they would give me an exam. They said yes. I was like, oh my gosh, great, thank you. They said, have you reported it yet? I said no. They said, okay, well you have to report to get an exam. That is not true. I told you guys I got certified to work at the Alachua County Victim Services and Rape Crisis Center, so I know you do not need to report your rape to get medical care. I want everyone to know that right now. Please, if you ever get raped, you do not have to report. I encourage you to report if you want to, but you do not have to in order to receive medical care. Fun fact. But the sexual assault center told me that I needed to. And I said, no, I don't. And they were like, yeah, you do. Okay, sure, well, thanks. They told me I needed to go back to the county where the assault happened in order to get my medical care. I said, that county turned me away. They said, oh, sorry, we don't care. So I went to the hospital. I went to the hospital across the street from the sexual assault center. And I told them what happened to me. And they were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. We're definitely gonna give you what you need. I was like, thank you. I got in there, they were like, well, we don't actually do that, actually. We don't really do that. I was like, what do you mean you don't do that? I told you I need a sexual assault exam. You brought me in. If you're not going to give me one, just let me know. And they were like, well, you know, you have to be a special nurse to do it. Sexual assault nurse examiners do exist. That is a thing. But you do not have to be one to administer this test or the exam. But they decided that this hospital's policy, apparently, that they have to be a sane nurse, is what we call them, to administer this exam. But it is not this hospital's policy that they have to have a sane nurse on duty. So, guess who didn't get a sexual assault exam? It was me. It was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. But my advice would be to bring someone with you. Do not be ashamed. Do not be afraid to tell someone, I got raped, I need help. Can you come with me to the hospital? I did get help eventually. I went to Gainesville. That hospital helped me. This story is really important to me to share because I need everyone to know what happened to me so it doesn't happen to anybody else. If you need help, leave Ocala. That's all I got. If you need a sexual assault exam, don't go anywhere near Ocala because they're not going to help you. My advice, stay mad. Stay mad. I don't subscribe to the idea that you need to forgive. I will not be forgiving these hospitals. They denied someone who really needed medical care something really important. And I think it's absolutely appalling. And I'm really grateful to Lisa for letting me share this story. Is there anything else I want to say? I did get my exam eventually, and I did report the assault. Nothing came of it, even though I gave them all the information they needed. So the story doesn't have an excellent ending, if I'm being honest, but I feel strong because of what happened to me. I came out of it feeling strong and ready and determined to take things on. Oh yes, and so both of these hospitals sent me a bill for going to the emergency room. even though they did nothing. They did nothing for me. Sexual assault exams are supposed to be free, and I did not get sexual assault exams, that's true. But I did go in and ask for them, and then they did not give them to me, and then they sent me bills. So that was really great. And what was really great is I was young, I'm still young, but they sent the bills to my dad. My dad called me, he was like, why do I have these bills from the hospital? And I was like, oh my gosh, Dad, don't pay the bills. He was like, what happened? I didn't want to tell him. And I did tell him eventually, but I called the hospitals. I said, listen, I'm not going to pay these bills. I came in for a sexual assault exam. You did nothing and then charged me $100. Not doing it. And they said, that's too bad. You have to pay the bills. And so I posted a TikTok about just like a brief summary of what happened. I posted on Facebook. I posted on Instagram. A couple hours later, both the hospitals messaged me, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened to you. We'll retract the bills. Thank you. Yes. So yeah, my story, I feel like it's a little bit different. I don't know how to inspire you other than saying, stay mad. If something happens to you, stay mad about it. Get stuff done. And go to Gainesville if you need to go to the hospital. Thank you guys.
Our next speaker is Jacqueline Korpela, also known as Jackie. She has shared a deeply personal and powerful story in the book, as all the other women have. In her chapter entitled The Bully Who Got Better, Jackie writes about her experiences with bullying and abuse both in school and at home, and how these experiences have affected her. Since participating in the book, Jackie has gone on to self-publish 2 other works. I am honored to welcome her to the stage.
Thank you. I'm going to be reading off my phone so I don't get caught on some tangent. Hello, my name is Jackie Korpela, and I feel truly honored to be speaking today along so many powerful women. In my chapter, I shared stories of being abused and bullied in school, and the reason I couldn't confide in my family. I never bothered to report the school problems at home because my home was not a safe place. There was abuse in many forms happening in our home. Verbal abuse being the most obvious and prevalent. Abuse from my older sibling was mostly overlooked, and verbal abuse was the normal when we communicated with each other. In my story, I explained how it started with my grandparents, trickled down to my parents, and finally down to me and my siblings. It's incredibly hard to exist in a space where people are criticizing and saying vile things on the regular. After moving away and learning that families didn't have to be this way, I started to set strong, loving boundaries with my own family. I started to unpack my own trauma and make up my mind what I would and wouldn't stand for. I looked for methods to help me thrive in life rather than just surviving. I make a point to be authentic with my words and use my words to lift people up instead of break them down. It's took unlearning several survival tactics and behaviors from my childhood and many uncomfortable conversations with my family. We have worked through years of pain and salvaged some type of authentic relationship as adults, and I'm really grateful for that. Not all of my siblings are as committed to growth, and therefore I don't keep contact with them for mine and my children's safety. Boundaries are vital to growth and healing, and I'm working on creating healthy boundaries constantly with my own family. I didn't carry the toxic traditions of my upbringing with my own children. In my home, we speak to each other kindly. None of us would ever comment on each other's bodies or tease someone for something they couldn't help. We all hold each other accountable for how we speak, and the biggest rule in our home is treat others the way you would want to be treated. It sounds simple, but that's not the way I was brought up. If a family member has something rude to say, I call it out on the spot. My kids know I love and defend them with my life, with everything in me, and our home will always be their safe place. The personal fallout from writing this piece felt really heavy for me. Some members of my family feel angry, hurt, and exposed by my honest account of our home life. I'm sure there was some embarrassment from having our family business becoming so public. A precious few people responded with support, love, and validation. My younger cousin Tiffany reached out after the book was released, and she had this to say. One of my earliest memories as a kid was visiting your house and witnessing your father and older brother's treatment of you, then how everyone else laughed it off as if it were normal. You and I just laid on the couch together while you cried. Now, I have no recollection of this, but this was a formative memory for her. She said, "I'd never been exposed to that type of setting before, and my mind reeled over the cruelty that you must have been enduring daily. Your experiences are real, and all of your work towards healing and breaking the cycle of abuse is badass." I can't describe how validated and seen I felt while I was reading that. I spent a good portion of my life being gaslit and my traumas being minimalized. And then, like an angel, she threw me a lifesaver. That's what it felt like to receive that outside validation from her. Even though the backlash within my family was so rough for me, I was also feeling quite liberated and inspired to keep sharing myself with the world. Publishing my story encouraged me to publish a project that I had on my heart for some time. I released The Rainbow Connection, an interactive journal for processing grief, and another edition for people that have experienced pregnancy loss. They're both available on Amazon, and I was able to publish those just a few months after Shameless had come out. So I've continued to write and create more resources based on my personal experiences since then, and those will be released this year. I would like to just thank Lisa Anderson Media for including my story in Shameless. I have been writing my entire life, and I have never had an outlet because I was afraid to be vulnerable. But because of this life-changing experience, I will continue to share my stories shamelessly for the rest of my life.
I am going to call her out real quick. She almost didn't come on stage. We got her confirmed about 3 weeks ago. So congratulations. All right, we have one more speaker before lunch. Her name is Lauren Debick. She shares her experience with an emotionally abusive relationship in her chapter entitled Growing Through the Rearview Mirror. Lauren is the creator and host of the Graceful Confidence podcast and founder of Life Coaching with Lauren. She is a certified life coach and executive coach with a passion for empowering others to live their best lives. I'm excited to have Lauren on the stage today. Please give her a big round of applause.
When I first saw the social post come out promoting me to be a speaker at this event, and I saw the words, "Come hear Lauren Debick talk about her experience in an emotionally abusive relationship," I felt something. It hit me hard. And it took me a few days to figure out what that feeling was. And after thinking about it and reflecting on it, it finally hit me. That felt shame. That was shame. And then I spiraled because the whole point of this is to feel shameless, and I was feeling shame about the thing that I did. But what I've heard the other speakers say today and what I have felt myself is it's scary to put yourself out there. It is scary to be vulnerable, to be seen as weak, or how did I get myself in a situation like this? But that's why we're here. So I want to thank everyone who participated and who is sharing their story. I moved to Ocala about 7 years ago. When I moved to Ocala, I had the opportunity to write my own news story, and emotional abuse was not part of that story. I think that's why I felt the shame, because here I am opening up my story. But it's true. I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. So what I want to do today and take the opportunity to share with you what to look out for an emotionally abusive relationship, because unlike some other forms of abuse, it's very tricky to identify. And honestly, I didn't know I was in one until I was almost out of it. So I want to share with you some things to look out for. In my experience, the top 3 behaviors that were most prevalent were isolation, belittling, and stonewalling. Isolation is what it sounds like. It's being alone, not feeling supported. I was alone a lot, physically and emotionally. Belittling, so teasing, mean teasing. I'm starting to hear more and more, and I really, really like what I'm hearing, is when a little boy teases a little girl, it's not because he likes you, that we need to get away from that. If someone likes you, they are kind to you, they treat you with respect, and they don't make you feel bad. And stonewalling. I'm a communications professional. To be in a relationship with someone who puts up a wall and does not communicate with you, it's disrespectful and it's abuse. Some other things to look out for if you think you are in an emotionally abusive relationship. Controlling behavior. So controlling who you talk to, where you go, those types of things. Humiliation are just a few of them. It's a very wide variety, but these are some things to look out for if you think you are in an emotionally abusive relationship. It causes real damage, and it can have lasting effects on well-being, and it has taken me years of healing, and I'm still obviously working through that. So, what I've also heard though, and what I also would encourage people to look out for, is their moment of truth. It could be that transformative experience for good or for bad. Keep an eye out for this moment of truth. For me, my moment of truth came in a church in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio. OH. Thank you. So my grandfather had passed away a few days before Christmas, and I flew up for the funeral, and I flew up alone. And as I was walking in the church with my immediate family, I saw the significant others of my siblings and my cousins, and it was that moment that I thought, oh my gosh, I'm alone. What am I doing? But I've been alone the entire time. And I got really angry, and going back to the anger, staying mad and staying angry, not just angry at him, but angry at myself. How did I let myself get into this situation? So it took a mere 3 weeks after I came back to Florida where I said, you know what? This is it. I'm done. I'm making a change for the better for my life. And I would like to take the opportunity, because there is a group of people over here. Wave your hands. These individuals were there for me, and it is so important to have that support system. I don't think any of us would have thought 7 years ago, when all of that was happening, that we would be here experiencing this opportunity today. So what I want to leave you is with this. We all have a story, but those stories make up the book of our lives. Good stories, bad stories, and one of the most exciting things is we have the power to pick up the pen, to go to the keyboard and change our story. So if you are going through something that's difficult, know that you have the courage, you have the strength, you have what it takes to write a new story for yourself. I am acutely aware that I am standing between us and lunch. So with that, I would like to say thank you to Lisa, thank you to everyone who's being here, and thank you to the women who continue to share their stories.
Okay, well, have you guys been enjoying all the stories so far? So let's go, well, you just did it, but let's go ahead one more time and give them another round of applause. You got me. So I hope you all had a chance to enjoy your lunch, and please, we're gonna leave some of it out, so if you're still hungry, go help yourself, because I'm not feeding the neighborhood when I get home. So before we get to the second half, again, I want to go ahead and thank all of our sponsors here. Once again, we just could not do this event without them, so give them a big round of applause. Once again, I also want to acknowledge and give a special thanks to Pace Center for Girls. As I mentioned earlier, all the authors and I have chosen to donate our royalties from this book to PACE. And they provide education and mentorship for young girls, and they're making a positive impact in our community, and we're so proud to support their mission. Okay. Finally, I want to go ahead and recognize our co-host for this event, the Hispanic Business Council. Yep, give them a round of applause, because honestly, the HBC is a local nonprofit organization with a mission of helping all members of the local small business community grow, network, learn, support, engage, and advocate for each other and the community at large. And you don't have to be a Hispanic business to be a part of them. Their efforts in helping bring this event together have been invaluable, and I mean that truly. And we could not have done it without their support. The HBC is an important resource for small businesses, and we are proud to have them as a partner to this event. So thank you very much, HBC, for your dedication to the community and your support in making this event possible. All right, so we have some amazing speakers still to come, and let's go ahead and continue on this journey. The first speaker for this half, Katerina MacKenzie, joins us via Zoom. And in her chapter entitled Where the Real Power Is, Katerina shares her journey of seeking a restraining order against her abusive partner and facing the many challenges in the legal process. So please give her a warm welcome.
Happy to be here with you today. Thank you so much for your time and attention to all of the wonderful speakers we've heard so far, and for sharing the next couple of minutes with me. As Lisa said, my chapter is about my experience of surviving domestic violence in the middle of COVID. I left my abusive fiance in May of 2020. That subsequently led to him stalking me, which led to the court system. What should have been a really quick, what outside of COVID would have been a really quick turnaround time for a restraining order, took about 6 months of on and off court stuff. It's an experience I hope to never have to repeat. Once was enough, but I've learned a lot in the last couple of years from having to navigate the legal system and then having to heal from all of it. So I'd like to share a little bit of what I've gleaned in the last 2.5 years from this experience, if you let me. So the first thing that I had to get really comfortable with was not being believed. This system is not designed, it is not designed to support victims. It's designed to support straight white men. And anybody who's speaking out against someone like that is going to be in the minority. They're going to have an uphill battle. When I first went to the court system, the judge straight up told me I was overreacting. My ex stalked me at the airport for over 8 hours. He was waiting for a flight to come in. He figured out where I left my car and asked them if I had picked it up yet. But I was overreacting. He also told me that I was, a threat that was made to me was comparable to, what was it, the honeymooners to the Moon Alice? Fun fact, a threat couched in comedy is still a threat. So be prepared to not be believed by the court system. There are going to be people that are going to side with your abuser. They have to be as good at manipulating their allies as they are at manipulating their victims, or they're not going to be successful. Those people are not your people. Those people are not really worth worrying about. The people that actually deserve space in your life are the ones that aren't going to need convincing. Second thing is that therapy is not for wimps. Boy, howdy is trauma therapy not for wimps. There are days I leave my therapist's office feeling like I waded through rattlesnakes and then fought a bear. But it's worth it. It's worth it. It's a lot of work and it's really hard, but it's worth it. And you realize that your well-being is worth it. Another thing I had to deal with that really takes up a lot of my time as far as therapy goes is dealing with the shame and the guilt of having survived something like that, because a lot of us are not proud of who we were in those situations. But the thing that I had to internalize was that I was who I needed to be to survive. I was, in that time, who I needed to be to get to where I am now. And that person that brings up all of that shame and that guilt, all of those feelings, that person is as deserving of my love and compassion as the person I am now is. Like, it does not have to be one or the other. You're allowed to be multiple versions of yourself throughout your life, if that's what you have to do to survive. Everybody grows and changes. It's part of being alive. The last thing that it's not the best, but it's the truth. It doesn't get easier. It doesn't get easier. There are things about that experience that I will live with for the rest of my days. I had post-traumatic stress before I even met Andrew. And then it got so much worse in that time. And I still deal with panic attacks and nightmares and sleep paralysis and so many other things. But the thing is, it may not get better, but you get better at dealing with it. So no, the symptoms may not have improved, but my toolkit has grown in the last 2.5 years. And it may not get better, but it does improve. Life improves, and you learn how to deal and live with things as they are. And suddenly you realize one day that things as they are aren't bad anymore. Yeah, it's different, but it's not bad. You get an opportunity, at least I got an opportunity from getting out of that situation to make space for so many other wonderful people and wonderful experiences and a level of independence and self-confidence that I didn't have before. It's hard. It's always going to be hard, but it's also always going to be worth it. Anyway, that's what I've got. Thank you for your time today, all, and have a good rest of your day.
All right, so our next speaker is Esmirna Caraballo, owner of multiple businesses, a board member of the Better Business Bureau, and the co-founder of the Hispanic Business Council, which is why I was looking over there when I was thinking that. Esmirna's chapter, entitled My Life is Mine to Write, is a powerful story of overcoming childhood trauma and becoming a role model for her children and the community. She is a true leader and an inspiration, so please give her a big welcome.
So, hi. Usually I'm okay standing in front. Again, I am right now president of the of B&I currently, and I'm up there every week in front of almost 70 people. I also do it at the Better Business Bureau out in Longwood, and I do it every month for the Hispanic Business Council, right? And it's easy, it rolls off, it's business, and that's how I learned to repress what happened to me, because I was able to focus that anger, the same anger that she said I don't have to let go, right? I have to let go because it's my life, right? And I was able to put it against my business, and I was able to put that anger into positive, right? Yeah. So that's what we did. With that, so being able to tell my story, by the way, it was Lisa's fault. She made me do it. When Lisa approached me and told me what we were doing, she knew already some of my stories of how I am. I am the 100% helicopter mom. Okay, I have a 21-year-old, she's at the corner. Hi, Adina. And I have a beautiful 10-year-old boy. Yes, same marriage. And I am, like I said, this is probably the first year that I'm, from 100, I might be 80% helicopter mom, right? I was 14 years old. We've always had family over. I'm Puerto Rican, descent. I was born in the United States. And our family's always known as, and friends, people who I hung around with, you do not say the bad things that's happened in your household. You keep that inside. That's not nobody's business. So that's the way I was taught, right? And so that's what we did. I have a great mother. She unfortunately was actually injured at the time that I was abused. And I was abused by a step family member who would come over. I was 14. I didn't even have my period. I got my period when I was almost 16. So that's even harder, right? And if you know your body by what is it? What's that class unit like? Anatomy. You know that the girl, you were not grown yet at age 15 if you didn't have your period. So I was abused. Long story short, I begin with the screeching of a car. So I was actually raised in a garage with boys. So I have the boy mentality. I love my brothers. I love the guys and the friends and all. But the screeching of a vehicle will still get me till today. It's unfortunate, right? So, he would come every time. He was coming for quite a few months, and I wasn't allowed to say anything. He never threatened me not to say anything. It was the threat of you're not allowed to say anything in your, out of your household. So when I finally figured out that it was being abused, I still didn't tell anyone, still didn't tell my mom, and he finally, when he forced me, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, just like you guys heard me screaming, that was me. And long story short, he threw me down a basement stairs. So if you know colonial homes, the bottom of the steps is concrete. So I landed there. By the grace of God, I have no backaches. That's God, right? He protected me. And what he did was he took advantage of me. Again, because I didn't have a period and I was so small, it was very forceful, it was hurting, and that's the deep end of it, right? The reason why I get to say this story and I get to say it is, I'm a helicopter mom, so when I got pregnant of my daughter, I got married, got pregnant, I said, why'd you give me a girl? I asked God, why'd you give me a girl? And I knew not to ask God questions. And I said, why'd you give me a girl? Do you not remember what I went through? Like, hello? So God gives me the girl, I'm like, I'm gonna protect her to the end, right? And then, I love girls, right? It's like, oh, okay, I love my mom, love the girls, and all. I got pregnant again, 12 years later, and it was a boy. Men, yeah, I love my husband, I love my stepdad, and so on and so forth, but I was always against men. I always had something. It was, because of what happened. So God gives me a boy to teach me how to love, a male, the male species, right? So I said, okay. I didn't get to tell anyone this story up until now when I got to speak and meet Lisa about it. During my story, this man, before, he went to jail when I was 15, right? When everything was happening to me, he went to jail. And he went to jail for raping the twin 6-year-olds of his girlfriend. That was my opportunity to come forward too. But again, I'm not allowed to say nothing. So I didn't get to tell them that it was me, but I was glad that he was paying for something that he did to the 3 of us, and God knows who else that could come forward, right? So he got out in 2021. Finally, he got out. And when he got out, I was terrified. I'm in my late 30s, 40s, and I'm terrified. Like, wait a minute, why am I so scared? Then I got angry again. Like, why is he out? Who lets a person like that monster out? And then I got the news that he had overdosed on heroin. And being a Christian or being a believer in God, you don't wish upon death and you don't get excited for it. But I was so angry and I'm human, I did. And my business partner, who is also my best friend, he was like, no, you allowed to be mad. Be mad at him. You can do that. I'm like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'll be mad. She gave me the opportunity to write this book, and because God is good, he died while I was writing in this book. And he died alone, which was even better. And I said, this is the time to close that chapter. Because of what he did, it did trickle down throughout my life with other people and with other men in the family, and it was unfortunate, to go through that, but he was the starting point. So because that starting point died, I'm just waiting for the others, like a domino effect, to do the same thing. So my story is if you have girls, even if you have boys, because this can happen to a boy. I'll be damned happens to my son. I love my kids, they're my babies. And what I did was I channeled my anger to help the community, to help the Hispanic community, so the community at large itself. That's the reason why the Hispanic Business Council here, and the butterfly you see up on the top, that's mine. And what that does is it represents, It represents 2 things, for the business and of course as a personal, and it's healing.
That's right.
It's healing. And then on the business point, I heal you from your accounting and tax needs. Sorry. So I wanted to put that together so that way everybody asks me, what's the butterfly for? It's freedom. She flies, and it's freedom. And that's what Lisa gave me the opportunity to tell my story, and him dying also gave me that push to say, this, you don't rule me, that this is it. So I hope that my story has inspired you. And if someone you do know, someone on Facebook, if you're out there, it doesn't matter what age you are. I've been carrying this since I was 14. No kid should carry this at all. But you shouldn't carry it either, even in the last 2 years. No one should. Doesn't matter how long it was or how short it was. So if you know anyone, please come forward. We'll help you. Come to us. We already know how it is. And we'll just kick somebody's... Okay, go.
Okay, so Dana Olmstead, as she's in the book, but she's recently gotten married, Krull, joins us now via Zoom from the cold state of Minnesota. She has been in the financial industry for nearly 25 years. She is a yoga instructor, a mother, and as I said, recently married. She shared her personal journey of overcoming heartbreak, disappointment, and an emotionally abusive marriage in her chapter titled Shattered But Not Broken. Please welcome Dana Krull.
Well, thank you guys for having me here today. I'm really honored to be a part of this group. Listening to all these women speak is really inspiring. To read their story is one thing, but to hear all of you talk about it is another. It's made me extremely nervous. When Lisa first approached me about being a part of this book, I thought, what an amazing idea. This is going to be great. I mentioned it to a handful of people that I felt had stories that they should share. And I thought that it was really interesting, given that the book's name is Shameless, that one of the reactions I got from almost everyone was how their story would hurt the reasons they had to write. And I was one of them, but sorry. Writing the chapter was really part of my healing, and it was a great time to reflect and also add to those dreams for the future. If you read my chapter, you'll read that, early on, there were things that happened that set how I felt about myself and how I saw myself. And I learned really quick that even when words come from a place of goodness and love, they can really do damage. So I've learned, for me personally, that, that leading with light, be mindful of your words. And, when you hear someone has an eating disorder, that's something real. And some people are like, oh, well, they're skinny, and that's not what it's about. Or, people have all these misconceptions about different things. And really what it is at the end of the day is you don't walk in their shoes, and you need to be loving and supportive. And that's not leading with light. And I've listened to all these stories, and it's really interesting to me how they all weave together. There's consistent messages that we've all said. I loved, Sydney, you said, stay mad. And while I tried to fill my heart with love and compassion and light and stay positive, I've always been told being mad is negative. Actually, it can be very positive. I needed just enough anger to push through, because what I had to do in my emotionally abusive relationship, which ended up in marriage and divorce and a beautiful son, of course, but it was like walking down a narrow hallway lined with sandpaper, and you just have to keep pushing through, because you have to break those old habits where you believe the words they say and you believe all the lies you're told. And you really have to be your own advocate. And I think that's another consistent message that I've heard today. Jackie said, set boundaries. She also said, be mindful with your words. Lauren talked about isolation and belittling and stonewalling. Those all resonated with me. And sorry, emotional. It just is interesting to me how many women I've talked to who have heard my story, and I see it in their faces, I hear it in their voice, it resonates. And that's why I think that it's great to have this book and bring us all together, because really at the end of the day, surrounding yourself with that positivity and that reinforcement, and that one person, it's all it takes is that one person who lifts you up, who reminds you who is there for you, good, bad, indifferent, they're always there. It takes one person to make a difference. And I think that every woman in this book has something great to offer. And if one of us in this book turns something around for one other person, that's amazing. So I just want to say I have lots of gratitude. I think one of the things that really helped get through all of my hard times, and still today, because it doesn't end, right? Healing is an ongoing process. But one of the things is always focusing more on the things you do have and not the things you don't. Everybody's life looks different, and everybody's gifts are different. Everyone's path is a little different. And just being grateful for all that you have and focusing on those things, focusing on the fact that you could be the thing that someone's admiring and looking up to. With children, my son watches me every day. So he was really what grounded me and kept me going, because I wanted to be a good example for him, because I knew I was the place he was going to get that. So I want to thank everyone for being here and being a part of this and letting me be a part of this. Lisa, thank you for the opportunity and for pushing me a little outside of my comfort with sharing my story so publicly. I appreciate your friendship and your support, and Lisa's loved me from the beginning of my journey. So thank you guys.
Unfortunately, Cherise couldn't be here with us today, so we are going to go ahead and move on to our next speaker. So Connie Rose joins us on stage, and she is the founder of Victims to Survivors and a survivor of domestic violence and exploitation. Her chapter, entitled From Victimhood to Warriorhood, is a powerful story of resilience, determination, and of course, self-love. She is dedicated to bringing awareness to the issue of human trafficking and empowering others to find their own strength and resilience. Please welcome Connie to the stage.
We have a PowerPoint. We're doing things just a little bit different. So hold on one second. As a matter of fact, Lisa, while you're doing that, I'm just going to do a little activity. And if you could make it there, I appreciate it. All right, so we're going to shake it up a little bit because, right, some of you are like, oh my goodness, let me breathe. Like, I'm not really sure. Is this about me? Like, all of that stuff. So are you ready to shake this up with me? Yeah. All right, so let's get up. Stand up. Come on, we're going to shake our booties. And here we go. You're going to put your hands up over your head. I'm going to put this down for a second. Are you ready? Yeah. All right, here we go. We are going to shake, shake, shake. Woo! Shake, shake, shake. Yeah, shake your booty. What? Shake your booty. Woo! One more time. Shake, shake, shake. Woo! Shake, shake, shake. Yeah, shake your booty. Woo! Shake your booty. Woo! All right. Wow. All right, now I gotta watch my time. I have 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Okay. So I wanted to do this a little bit different because I want to take you down the journey. Because quite honestly, I'm hoping that a lot of you have already read the chapter about the book. Some of you haven't, so you're here today. Please buy the book, Right Pace Center for Girls is phenomenal. I've mentored a couple hundred girls actually through Pace Center for Girls. So if you could click on to the next slide, please. I am free. I am finally free. And why am I free? Because you see, on November 2nd, 2008, on my 56th birthday, the man that I learned before I was 2 to trust, the man that said to me, I love you, you're my daughter, I love you unconditionally, the very same man that perpetrated me and violently accosted me from the time I was 2 until I was 19 years old. And you can read more in the chapter in my book. That very same man died on my birthday, November 2nd, 2008, within minutes of when I was born. My best friend, who is also my sister, is sitting right here, Linda. If it was not for Linda, I would not have had the courage to face him at the hospital before he died. So what I want to share with you, and I want to move on just a little bit past this, is about we are free. It is about freedom. It is about moving past that blame, that shame, and that guilt. Because why should I have to live a life that I rip myself apart every day for crimes that were committed against me? Please. So I share this, you can click one more time with that. I share this picture with you because you see, it wasn't just about incest. It wasn't just about the mental and the physical and the drug abuse and addictions and all those kinds of things that were happening in our household. It was about the grooming process. I got to model. I was in beauty pageants, right? I was a dancer. I was very fortunate, or so I thought. Little did I know that it was a grooming process, that he was putting it into place, because see, this was back in the 70s. There was no social media. There was no way for him to market me other than Polaroids, pornography, and when I was on a runway. So I share this picture with you, and I call my next book is going to be called Daughter for Rent, right? This was a photo shoot before, this was a professional photo shoot. However, before this occurred, on that same day, in the morning, I had a private photo shoot with him. And now I want to share that with you because here's what ended up happening in my life. I went from being sexually abused by him to being exploited and being sex trafficked until I was 19 years old. And at 19 years old is when I was able to finally get out. Next slide. So this incredible man right here, he is my sweetheart. He is my person. I have children, we'll talk about them in a moment. I met Rico when I was 15 years old. He was 16 years old. Our very same friend when we were kids introduced us. Right? He was the very first person that I told, because I'm Greek and Italian, you did not tell, right? You did not tell, right? You carried your stuff to the grave. And I told him because we were kissing. My body was reacting. I didn't know what to do with any of that stuff. And whatever the dirty little secret was over here, my body did the same thing because God created our bodies to react. I told him, I went in, I shared with my mom. That's a whole nother story for another book for you to read that one. But here's what happened. He left, he went off to school. We both had our own families, raised our children, etc. 40 years later, almost exactly 40 years later, our friend Rob, the same friend that introduced us as kids, got us back together via social media. Because my last name's Anastasia, there's not a lot of those around. And they looked me up. And here we are today. We celebrated our 12th anniversary in November. Blessed by the grace of God. Any of you, if you talk to Linda, she will tell you I was not having children. As a matter of fact, our other best friend that we met in the Villages last night for dinner before driving over, Jodi, we used to hang out every Friday night when we were in our 20s. And there was a particular Friday night, don't know if you remember, I had already made an appointment in New York City. I worked for Revlon at the time, so I traveled extensively. I had made an appointment to have my tubes injected with silicone, because see, they said that was reversible. Little did I know, and I know they don't remember, they got me so drunk, excuse me for anyone that is recovery, they got me so drunk that I couldn't drive my car to get to the airport, so I missed my appointment. I was never going to have children because I felt there was no way I could raise them. I was broken. Not only was I broken, if my mother couldn't get past her trauma, how was I going to get past mine for so many years? But God had a whole nother plan for me, and so did my sister. And that plan was, first I had my son. Right? Beautiful son. My son is 38 years old. He's a men's fashion designer for the U.S. Polo Association. Incredible. Behind me is my two beautiful grandsons and my daughter-in-law. My daughter is also there because my former husband was a narcissist, was not going to allow me to have children, but God had another plan. Right? I had to learn that love and forgiveness through my children. Right? I was blessed with my beautiful daughter, Courtney, who's a chiropractor out in Fort Collins. Right? And she has been, both my children, most incredible gift from God. So this is all about unveiling the mask. Anybody here wear a mask? Oh, yeah. There should be a lot more hands up here. Anybody put makeup on today? Who did their hair today? Men. You do your look at your hair. You got to put some gel stuff in that hair, right? All right. We all have a mask. It is our protection from the outside world. So why is this so important to me? Because I shared with you I was in pornography from the time I was 2 till I was 19 years old. I always had to be perfect in the outside world. I was a Barbie doll. Even when I was married to my kid's father, I was his candy arm. I was a Barbie doll. I could not leave or go anywhere without makeup. Coincidentally, who did I go work for 10 years? Revlon. With Revlon, you were not allowed to go anywhere out in public without makeup on because you had to sell the product, right? But here's what I started learning as I was going through my road of recovery. That mask that I had on, I wouldn't even take the garbage out without having my entire makeup done. My hair had to be perfect, whatever, right? By the way, you don't know the imperfections in my hair right now. A lot of you keep saying, oh my goodness, your hair is so like perfect. Yeah, you know, I have to hide some stuff. Things get in my eyes, like whatever it might be. We all have a mask. We all have things for us to move past. I had to break it down and unveil that mask. Let me tell you one simple way that I did that. I was at a conference. The whole deal was, it was a motivational inner peace, one of those kind of things, right? Landmark, actually, if anybody kind of knows what it is. Phenomenal. Not sure if I was allowed to do that, sorry. It was phenomenal, right? And the thing was, you were on time if you were 45 minutes early. Here I am, I'm down in South Florida, I have this great white suit, boy, my mask is on, I'm looking great. I go to get coffee, I go to get gas. What do you think I did? Right? I said, no sweat. The Broward Mall's on my way to where I have to be. I got 45 minutes extra, right? But then I said, oh, you know what? I have no concept of time. That 45 minutes for me could turn into an hour because I had to space out when I was being victimized, right? What did I do? I looked at myself. I walked in to this huge meeting conference and I had coffee literally from here to here. And that right there is what helped me to unveil my mask. Now you see, we're powerful. We are so, so powerful. But what I want to just share with you for a moment. So yes, I am the founder of Victim to Survivors. We are a survivor-led organization. We are the bridge that filled the gap. We work with adult women that have been sexually violated and have been sex trafficked. But the other that I am extremely proud of also is that I co-created a statewide network for the state of Florida to serve our youth that are 10 to 24 years old. My goal for that was for survivors not to just be invited to the table. We have the first seat at the table. We get paid for what we do, and there's a lot more to that, but it was really about my brother and sister survivors to have a job that even if all they had was a GED, they could have a job where they could raise their families. And so in June, I came on as the co-president after co-creating it in 2015. And so in my life, I've absolutely had the opportunity to walk along survivors, to help them find their power. Because here's the thing, each and every one of you have your own power. You might not feel it, but if you go deep, deep down inside, into the grit and into the pit of your stomach, even when you are so mad, you find your personal power and you own, and I know you did, and you own that personal power. So I want to just share this with you. This woman is a warrior. This is for each and every one of you. And men that are here first, men, thank you. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. I'm going to talk to us ladies for a moment, all right? This woman is a warrior. She is unstoppable. She's gracefully fragile. She's beautifully standing. And she is love. Transformation. She is grace. She is brave. She will never stop learning or moving forward. Why? Because she is each and every one of you. Next slide. So put on your hat. I wish I had my tiara. I forgot it. Put on your tiara. Wear it proud. Because each and every one of you, and yes, men, you too, you are the unstoppable you. Thank you.
Our next speaker is probably a little jet-lagged. She just returned from Greece early this morning. Fannie Ocasio is a detective at the Locala Police Department and the founder of Spark of Flame Ministries. Fannie shared her story of overcoming the many challenges in her life in her chapter entitled Salvaged Soul. She found hope and healing through her faith and used her experience to help others. Welcome Fannie to the stage.
And just a great shout out to Lisa because this is an amazing, amazing opportunity, amazing experience. Thank you so much for all the support. I really am appreciative of it. My name is Fannie Ocasio, as she said, God calls me Firestarter. I'm gonna give you a little glimpse of my story from shame to shameless. And it goes a little something like this. How do I forgive you? How do I forgive you when the only thing you offered me was pain? See, up until you came along, I was like a little princess in my own private reign, living in a world filled with sunshine and love, covered by the grace of mommy, grandma, and the Lord God above. But the poison you carried, it must have simmered for a while, because you managed to completely wipe away my innocent, childlike smile. Couldn't you see that I was just a child? But no, your pride, that Lucifer pride, controlled those warm and happy feelings that I gave you inside, and only God would know what came over you that way. Because your eyes looked upon me like a predator hunting his prey. So you must have been watching me, calculating the day when the time would be right to destroy that beautiful, illuminating light that would shine from my eyes. What was it? Were you jealous? Did my joyful, childish antics drudge up memories from the past, causing your heart to callous? Causing you to fall like Alice through the looking glass? Resurrecting buried memories to resurface and pass in front of your mind's eye? So tell me, how do I forgive you when you left me to forever wonder why? Why did you do that to my mother? How could you do that to me? Mom had given you her body, and although bad judgment, her sexuality, couldn't you see that I was just a kid? That it was wrong touching me the way you did? Doing dirty, filthy things with me for pleasure, just to fulfill your perverted fantasy? I mean, how can you even look at yourself in the mirror? Or maybe the reflection looking back at you was shrouded in fear. Or maybe when you looked into your eyes, those demons inside of you said boo. Or maybe, just maybe, someone had already done this to you. But if someone had already done this to you first, you turning around to do it to me only made you worse. You robbed me of my innocence. You trampled on my white picket fence that protected my youth, my barrier, my defense. It crushed me. By touching me like a woman, it rushed me through my childhood experience. So tell me, how do I forgive you? When you tore our lives apart, did you know you caused my mom so much despair? She took a gun and blew out her heart? And that was just the start. Do you think that was fair? Did you know that that little light of mine lost all of its shine? I would forever wonder why Mom took her life and left me behind. You see, I thought it was me. I thought I had done something wrong. I felt neglected and rejected. Nights were short and days were oh so long, and that angry, vicious feeling inside me was so strong. When I think of all the people I've done wrong, it makes me ill. Instead of choosing life, I took advantage of God's gift to choose free will. But still, how do I forgive a man that molested not only my body, but also God's plan? Do you know that the day will come when you must account to the Creator all the things you have done, to the Ancient One, even to His Holy Spirit and to His only Son? My still picture life shattered with a gun, all because you let those demons convince you that you were having fun. So tell me, how do I forgive you when every thought of you made me scream? When the thought of a man holding me was more like a nightmare instead of a dream? how many others regretfully had to cross my path only to receive an undeserved, misdirected wrath that really was just the aftermath of a battle lost by a child who just got caught up in the manifestation of a man's imagination run wild. So tell me, how do I forgive you? How do I forgive you? How do I forgive you? But I do. I do forgive you. I forgive you because once upon a time I met a king disguised as a man. He was stronger and more powerful than any part of Satan's plan. See, he did this thing. He did this thing for you, for me. He picked up this massive wooden cross and he carried it up this hill called Calvary. He never once complained. They tortured and beat him. They even spit in his holy face. But instead of retaliating, he gave them unconditional love and grace. He never once complained, though tears of blood he did shed. He forgave me up until the very moment that he was dead. And if the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords could forgive the life that I was living, then it is not impossible for me to tell you you're forgiven. You are not a victim. You are not just a survivor. You are an overcomer. You are more than a conqueror. I am Firestarter.
Okay, the next speaker, Wendy Mestas, joins us from Zoom. Wendy is a financial professional who is driven to succeed in her career and help others in her community. Her chapter entitled Ride or Die shares her story of building a life with her husband and raising a family, all while facing the challenges of terminal illness and building a successful business. Please give a round of applause to Wendy.
Hello, good afternoon. I know you guys are in Florida, right? And thank you so much, Lisa, for today. I am currently out here in Denver, Colorado. And so greetings. We are actually having our own special event out here. I was planning on flying out there, but we have our Wealth Bowl here at our office here in Denver, Colorado. But I really want to say thank you. I'm very thankful to be here on this Shameless Summit. It's been 2 years in the making, right? So I want to thank Lisa Anderson for the vision that she had to share this. And I want to give a round of applause to all the women that wrote the chapters on here. It really takes a lot of courage and a lot of, just a lot of grit, right? To get out there and share what we've been through. And so, yeah, I just want to share my story really quickly. Like I said, it's been 2 years in the making. So since I wrote the chapter, a lot of things have happened in my life, but thankfully, successfully, I'm grateful for the business that I'm in because we are in the leadership development business. And if it wasn't for the leadership, the mentorship, the team, and just what we stand for, which is the 5 Fs, I wouldn't be here where I'm at, having strength and having courage to share my story. And so, yes, my husband, I titled it Ride or Die because, I lost my husband during 2020 of August 2020, and he had cancer. But my husband, when I met him, I was really young, 22 years old, and he was 15 years older than me, so there was an age gap, right? And so I became a stepmom before I was a mom, and I was raising stepchildren. And it was just, let me say, it was just a ride because I felt like I was, really young at that time. And I've learned a lot. I'm thankful for what I went through, but it's been a healing journey. So for those of you that have read the chapter, it was really a growing experience for me, and even just having to go back and write that, and having the help of writing it, and really wanted to share my story so I can go out and help others. And so, the addiction that my husband had was just something that we were battling throughout the years, 11 years together. Our children are now 11 and 12, and he's been gone now for 2 years. So it's been one ride. But I know that it's really important for me to share my story, which I can go and help others. And, now I'm growing my team. Since his passing, I have grown my team, and I have felt the changes since he passed away. So throughout the process, I've been having to grow my team, having to become a widow, and his family basically turning their backs on me because, I decided to move forward with my life. But during the time of when I was going through this with my husband, I was there. We were there. We did everything with the family. We had our differences as far as parenting, but we still made it manage through, and we were raising our children in a very loving, really great household. But, it was the same thing, the same repetitive, cycle. And I knew that I had something, a greatness, right? A calling. We all have a gift inside of us that we want to share. And sometimes you feel like you're stuck in a place where you want more, right? It's you feel like this is not the right time. This is not for me. I'm meant for something else. I'm very unhappy. I knew that I was unhappy. I just didn't know how to get away. And it was very scary there for a while because he was bringing the income. He was major breadwinner. And so for me, for a very long time, being young and 2 kids, I was really scared to get away. Well, how am I going to do this? But then finally, after so many years, and it was just the same cycle and that I wanted to break. And I knew that I didn't want to raise my kids in that environment. I finally decided that I was going to leave. But when I decided to leave, that's when he got diagnosed. And so when he had got diagnosed with cancer, I felt like that was a change for him to really turn his life around. And at that time, their pastor came in and he said, "You will be healed if you stop, doing the addiction to the alcohol and the drugs." And so I thought that he was going to be healed. And I experienced a miracle with him because they were going to go in there and remove half his liver. And then the surgeon came out in the middle of the surgery and she said, "We cannot find the cancer, it's gone." And I was like, this is crazy. And his family couldn't believe it. She's like, "Why am I going to remove half his liver when it's not there?" So I saw a miracle, and I was able to share with our church. And I thought that my husband was going to change his life. We were going to live happily ever after. And as soon as he got done with treatment, a year later, he went back into drinking. And, for me, he was not God-fearing. And a year later, that's when I really made the decision, hey, I finally got the guts and the push to say the D word, right, which is a divorce. I'm filing for divorce papers. And you need to get me a car because I'm going to move on, right? I made the decision to go from, becoming an employee, which I had worked from home, helping people with bankruptcies at that time. And so I said, I'm going to change this. I'm going to move forward. When you make that decision, that's when things come and you're afraid to do a change. But once you make that decision, doors open up and God provides. And so when I made that decision, that's when actually cancer came back around. And so for me, I was like, how am I going to look to people? What are they going to say? "Oh, you're leaving your husband when he's, cancer again." So it wasn't in my heart to do that. So I stood, and 9 months later, we were in and out of the hospital, lived in the hospital. I'm thankful for the business because we went online during COVID. So I was able to still build my business, living at the hospital, staying with him. And I just saw him really just decreasing his health, right? Not being strong anymore. And it was just tough pill to swallow. And 9 months later, my husband passed away. And it doesn't matter if, you have problems, a lot of times we get codependent and you say, hey, we can't beat them, join them. But I knew he wasn't taking the right choices in his health and in our marriage. And towards the end, my husband wanted to be a better father and be a better, husband. And I saw that, he just knew that he couldn't get out of it. He said, I always had the answer to something. I could always get out of this. But he knew that his last days were coming and there was nothing that he can do. So we were getting prepared. I know he didn't want to tell me that. And he passed away. So, now I'm having to deal with a lot of our issues that we had, right, involved in just the crazy whirlwind of addiction and, just not being able to face and talk and communicate because alcohol addiction was number one first in our relationship, right? That's how I felt. So it's been a lot of healing still. People might think that, hey, we're moving forward, but yes, I'm moving forward because life is still going on. Life still happens. We're still alive, but it doesn't mean that we're happy. We're still grieving. You're grieving and you're moving forward and you're trying to do the best that you can and also be an example to your children and the community, right? So it's very important to be able to provide and share your story to others because that's how you're going to help others heal and be, you can't just be quiet and you have to stand up and speak up because if you don't, I don't think that you're doing justice for yourself or for other women or anybody else around the world, right? And so with that being said, thank you, Lisa, for this amazing summit. Thank you for allowing us to give us a platform to speak and share our stories. And congratulations to every single one. And thank you so much for this time to be able to share my story. And I know that this is healing for myself and I hope for other women on here.
Okay, so we have our final speaker of the day, which is Jeanne Henningsen. With a master's degree in industrial organizational psychology and extensive experience coaching leaders, Jeanne knows all about helping women find their focus, balance, and purpose. In her chapter entitled Send Me Courage in My Fear, Jeanne talks about her paper-perfect marriage that was anything but perfect behind closed doors. Please welcome Jeanne to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I am so honored to be here, truly. And thank you, Lisa. I'm sure you had so many thanks today from everyone for doing this project. And thank you for allowing me to be part of it. Everybody's been talking about healing and where we were and where we're going. And it occurred to me listening to Wendy that writing this chapter was healing. And I didn't realize how healing it was going to be because, gosh, I'm over that. That was a long time ago. I've told this story so many times to other people. I'm just going to write it in a chapter, in a book. And it's not going to affect me. Oh, it did. It did. It was amazing. All the memories it drudged back up, working with a ghostwriter and having to tell her, and then she's feeding my words back to me. It was eye-opening, to say the least. So, back to where I was, honoring all of you, and I want to applaud you for taking time out of your Saturday to be here. And I really hope that you've been able to open your minds and your hearts to get some inspiration, to maybe get some healing, to learn something that is going to help you move forward in really beautiful ways in your life. So I brought a little card because I could go on and on and on, and I'm trying to honor the 6-minute time frame here. So I say at the end of my chapter, and I really want to just really highlight this and put an exclamation point on it, that I truly am grateful for what happened to me. And I hope that the other women that were part of this book feel the same way. And it took me a while to get there. because it wasn't fun, obviously. It was horrifying, terrifying. I was so full of fear. But now that I'm beyond it and I'm looking back, if I had not made that choice to marry that man and go through that experience, I would not be who I am today. And I love who I am today. And I realized that I had to walk through that fire. That was my journey to get to where I needed to be. And it's taken a long time to get there, and even bringing everything up from writing the chapter, it really emphasized to me, wow, I feel like that was a different person back then. Different person, how much I've transformed. So I wanted to let you know that no matter what you are going through, no matter what baggage you have that you're carrying, I still have some. I mean, it used to be really big bags, right? And I had one on my back, I'm pretty sure, because it felt really heavy, weighed me down in lots of ways. Now I feel like I have more of a little satchel, maybe, that I occasionally carry around. And when I realize it's there, I take it off. And I try to step more into my power and become the woman that God intended me to be. But every now and then, that little satchel shows up and I take it off. So I want to invite all of you to think about that baggage that you're holding on to. Whatever shape, size, color it may be. Whatever you want to become, stepping into your power, what's gonna have to happen for you to get there? What choices do you need to make to become that person? So give that baggage some labels, maybe. Not feeling good enough, fear of failure. And then I invite you, and I know you're sitting down, and I'm not gonna ask you to stand up because you all look so cozy. I want to invite you to let go of that baggage, leave it here, and when you walk through those doors this afternoon, be a new person, make a different choice, step more into your power and being that person that God intended you to be. Thank you.
Wow, we're done. I know. It's been an incredible day, and I just want you all to give the speakers one more round of applause. Your vulnerability and willingness to share your journey has truly touched my heart, and I hope everyone else's hearts here. And speaking from someone who also participated in an anthology where I, for the first time in 20 years, raised my hand and said I was raped, I know what these girls went through to tell their story. And they took a lot more courage for them to stand up here on stage today because I have a hard time promoting the book that I'm in. So another round of applause for them. I do want to go ahead and give another special thank you to our co-host, the Hispanic Business Council, and especially Esmirna Caraballo for their support in making this possible. Thank you to CF for allowing us to use this space, and of course we can't forget our sponsors again and their generosity and support, especially Noma Gallery. And I do want to say this as well, because a number of our sponsors are women in this book. So not only did they stand here and talk to you for free today, not only did they give up their royalties, they paid to be here. So we're really, truly grateful for all of them. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and let all of you know that your attendance, your sponsorships, and some of our donation from the royalties from just the fourth quarter, we're going to be donating $1,600 to PACE today. So for all of you that are interested, we will be having a book signing in the back of the room. Please give us a few minutes to prepare and get that all set up. And the line will start at the right of the room as you're facing the tables, so the side that the food was on. The books are limited into the number that we have, but I'm sure we have plenty here for everybody. Just know that we accept credit or debit or Venmo. If you have cash, we have no change. So you're welcome to give cash, and whatever excess over is going to be given to PACE as well. So the books are $8.99 plus tax. And once again, I'm just gonna say the amount of courage that it takes to not only write your story, but to be on the stage. If only one person is inspired to better their life here because these 15 women shared their stories, then it was all worth it. So thank you so much for being here.